Insight Podcast.
From Clear English Channel.
Hey everyone! Welcome back to English Insight Podcast. I'm Tom, and today I want to talk about something very real.
Hi guys, I'm Lily. And yeah, this is something I think a lot of people feel but don't always say out loud.
You know, I've been learning English for a while now, and recently I just feel bored. I sit down to study, I open my notebook, and after a few minutes, I just lose interest.
Like your mind starts to drift?
Exactly. It's like I'm there, but not really there. And the strange thing is, I still want to learn. I know it's important, but I just don't feel excited anymore.
Yeah, that feeling is very common.
Really? Because sometimes I think, maybe I'm just not good at this.
No, it's not that.
It's not?
No. Feeling bored doesn't mean you're lazy, and it doesn't mean you're bad at English. It just means something inside the process is not working for you anymore.
That actually makes me feel a bit better.
Good, because the first step is not blaming yourself. It's understanding what you're feeling.
Yeah, I think I've been a bit too hard on myself.
Most people are.
So this feeling, this boredom, it's not something unusual?
Not at all. It's actually a very normal phase when motivation starts to drop. And the important thing is you don't ignore it. You listen to it.
Listen to it?
Yeah, because once you understand it, you can start to see what's really going on.
You know, after what we talked about earlier, I started thinking about my routine. Because the truth is, I do study a lot. I sit down every day, I learn vocabulary, I do exercises.
That sounds very responsible.
Yeah, if someone looks at me, they would probably say, wow, this guy is working hard.
But how does it feel when you finish studying?
That's the weird part. It doesn't feel satisfying.
Not satisfying?
Yeah, it feels like I did something, but nothing really changed.
And that's where the problem begins.
Really?
Yes, because your brain doesn't care how much you study. It cares about one thing: progress.
Progress?
The feeling that I'm getting better.
Yeah, I don't really feel that.
And when you don't feel it, your brain slowly loses interest.
So that's why I get bored so quickly.
Exactly.
I think I see it now. I learn a lot of words, I write them down, I review them, but then I don't really use them.
That happens to a lot of people.
It's like I'm collecting vocabulary, but I'm not actually living the language.
That's a really good way to say it. And when learning feels disconnected from real life, your brain starts asking, what's the point?
Yeah, my brain asks that all the time.
Because there's no clear result, no moment where you feel, this is working.
So even if I study every day, it still feels boring.
If you don't feel progress.
That makes a lot of sense.
And here's something important. Progress doesn't have to be big.
It doesn't?
No, sometimes just one small moment, like understanding a sentence or saying something correctly, that's enough.
Really?
Yes, because your brain feels rewarded.
And that keeps you going.
Exactly.
So it's not that English is boring.
It's that you don't see your progress clearly enough.
Wow, that changes everything.
But there's something else that can make this feeling even stronger.
What is it?
Today, we're diving deep into one thing: pressure.
You know, what you said about progress earlier, it really stayed in my mind. Because when I think about it, I've been doing the same thing for a long time.
Yeah, and sometimes that's exactly where the problem begins.
Really?
Let me tell you something. I once knew someone who was very serious about learning English.
Sounds like a good learner.
Very. He studied every single day, never missed a day.
Okay, that already sounds impressive.
Yeah, But here's what I noticed. Every day, he would sit down at the same time, open the same notebook, read vocabulary, write it down carefully. Then he would do exercises, check the answers, close the book.
Sounds very structured.
Yes, but also very repetitive.
Hmm.
And the most important thing, he almost never used English in real life.
Not even speaking?
No speaking, no real conversations, no moments where he felt, wow, I can actually use this.
That's a bit sad.
It is, because at first he was motivated.
And then?
Slowly, without realizing it, something changed.
What changed?
He kept studying, but he stopped feeling anything.
Wow.
No excitement, no curiosity, no sense of progress.
Just routine.
Exactly.
So he was still learning, but it didn't feel meaningful anymore.
Yes, it became a habit, not something he cared about.
That actually sounds a lot like me.
And that's the thing. A lot of people are in that situation, but they don't realize it. When learning becomes too mechanical, just repeating, just memorizing, without emotion.
It starts to feel empty.
Exactly.
So even if I'm consistent,
It doesn't mean it's working.
that's a big difference.
Yeah, because real learning should give you something back.
Like what?
Energy, curiosity, a small feeling of progress.
And if you don't feel that,
Then something is missing.
I think that's exactly what I'm feeling.
And that's okay, because once you see it, you can change it.
So the problem is not that I'm not trying.
It's that your learning has lost its connection.
Wow.
And there's one more thing that makes this feeling even heavier.
What is it?
Pressure.
You know, listening to that story, it feels a bit uncomfortable
Why is that?
because I can see myself in it. Not completely, but enough to feel it.
Yeah, and when that happens, there's usually something deeper going on.
Huh.
Let me ask you something. When you study, do you ever feel like you should be better by now?
Yeah, all the time.
And how does that feel?
Heavy. Like, no matter how much I study, it's never enough.
That's pressure.
Yeah, it doesn't feel very motivating.
It isn't, because once pressure enters, learning starts to change.
Change how?
It stops being something you explore and starts becoming something you have to prove.
Prove.
You want to sound good. You don't want to make mistakes. You don't want to feel embarrassed.
Yeah, I hate making mistakes.
Most people do, but when you're afraid of mistakes, you stop learning freely.
That's true. Sometimes I don't even try to speak because I'm not sure if it's correct.
Exactly. So instead of learning, you start holding yourself back.
Wow.
And then something else happens. You start comparing yourself to other people.
Yeah, that one hits hard.
You see someone speaking better, more confidently.
And you feel behind.
Exactly. And that feeling creates even more pressure.
So it becomes a loop.
Yes, more pressure, less confidence. Less confidence, less action.
And then everything feels harder.
Exactly.
So it's not just about how I study.
It's about how you feel while you study.
I think I've been too hard on myself.
A lot of learners are.
Yeah, I keep thinking if I'm not improving fast, then something must be wrong with me.
That thought right there is what makes everything heavier. Because now you're not just learning English, you're judging yourself at the same time.
Wow. Yeah, I do that.
And when your mind is full of pressure, there's no space left for curiosity.
And without curiosity,
Learning loses its energy.
so that's why it starts to feel heavy.
Exactly.
So, no real progress, no connection, and too much pressure.
All of that together can turn learning into something exhausting.
Yeah, no wonder it feels boring sometimes.
And that's why we need to look at that feeling differently.
Differently?
Yeah, because maybe boredom is not the real problem.
You know, after everything we've talked about,
something is starting to click.
Yeah?
The boredom, the frustration, the feeling of being stuck. It's not just random.
No, it's not.
It's like my brain is reacting to something, but I never really stopped to understand it.
Exactly. Because most people don't.
What do you mean?
When people feel bored, they usually say, I don't like this anymore.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought.
And then they stop.
Hmm.
But what if boredom is not telling you to stop?
Then what is it telling me?
It's telling you something needs to change.
Change.
Maybe your learning is too repetitive. Maybe you're not using English in real life. Or maybe you're putting too much pressure on yourself.
So all those things we talked about,
They're not separate problems, they're signals.
signals.
Let me ask you something. When you feel bored while studying, what do you usually do?
I stop or I scroll on my phone.
Yeah, most people do that. But imagine this. Instead of stopping, you ask yourself one simple question.
What question?
It's what is missing?
What is missing?
Is it progress? Is it real communication? Is it enjoyment?
I think for me it's connection.
That makes sense. Because language is not just something you study, it's something you experience.
And if I don't experience it,
It starts to feel empty.
wow. So all this time, I thought boredom meant I wasn't good enough.
No, it means your brain is trying to help you.
Help me?
Yes, it's saying, this way is not working anymore. Try something different.
So instead of blaming myself,
You listen,
that feels a lot lighter.
because it is. The moment you stop seeing boredom as a problem and start seeing it as a message,
Everything changes.
exactly.
So, in the end, boredom is not the enemy.
It's just a signal pointing you in a better direction.
Wow. And now that you understand that, let's give you a few simple words so you can remember this idea clearly. You know, after this conversation, I feel like I finally understand what was wrong.
Yeah,
Before, I kept thinking I just needed to study more, but now I see that wasn't really the problem.
exactly.
So, if I keep this simple, what should I remember?
Then let's keep it simple. When you learn, you need to feel progress.
Not just studying?
Not just studying, but small moments when you understand something or say something correctly.
Yeah, those moments feel different.
That's what keeps you going. And then you need connection.
Connection.
Using English in real life. Speaking, listening, not just writing or memorizing.
Yeah, not just learning alone.
Exactly. And there's something you need to reduce.
Pressure?
Yes, that feeling that you should already be better.
I feel that a lot.
And the more you feel it, the harder it becomes to learn.
Yeah,
So instead of that, you need curiosity.
curiosity.
Being willing to try, to make mistakes, and keep going.
That feels easier.
Because it is. Pressure makes you hesitate. Curiosity helps you move forward.
So, I don't need to push harder.
You need to change how you learn.
Feel progress, build connection, let go of pressure, and stay curious.
Exactly.
That makes a lot more sense now.
Good.
I don't feel stuck anymore.
That's a good sign. So next time you feel bored, don't ignore it.
Listen to it.
Because it might be showing you what needs to change.
Yeah.
And that's all for today. Thanks for listening.
See you next time.